creating custom Pokemon for you! Welcome back, everyone, to the show where we select lucky commenters to spin a series of random wheels that give us factors for a Pokemon that we then create just for you. It's gonna be an awesome episode today, y'all. We're gonna make 3 amazing custom Pokemon as always, so if you end up liking today's video, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And of course, if you want a custom Pokemon for yourself, don't forget to leave a comment because I'll be randomly selecting people from this video's comments for the next episode. But without further ado, let's get into the first Pokemon! And this one will be for Professor Lunch, who says that my videos have glowed up. And I've been putting a lot more effort into the editing lately, so I'm glad y'all noticed. But anyways, Lunch, let's start by getting the power level of your Pokemon, and you are going to be a Paradox Pokemon for the first one of the day. That's awesome! And it means that now we have to spin this wheel to see what generation of Pokemon will be making a Paradox form for, and it's Gen 3. There are a ton of awesome Gen 3 Pokemon, so that's great. And of course, now we'll spin this wheel to see what Gen 3 Pokemon will be making a Paradox form for, and it's Jirachi. That is absolutely insane. We're making a Paradox form for a mythical Pokemon? That is wild. Now, every Paradox form keeps at least one of its old typings, so we know that Jirachi will stay Psychic type, but let's still get a secondary type, and it's the Flying type. I'm not exactly sure how the Flying type would work on Jirachi, so that's going to be a little difficult. And the last and most important step is to see if this Pokemon is a past or future Paradox form, and it is a future Paradox Jirachi. This is going to be crazy. Get ready for a Pokemon that's known to increase shareholder value. Your Pokemon is Iron Wish, the contained Pokemon. The Pokemon Jirachi is known to be in a near constant slumber, only waking up every 1,000 years, at which point it will spend 1 week granting wishes to those who seek it out. But unfortunately, in the bleak and dystopian future, this once cheerful wishmaker has been captured, imprisoned, and commercialized, as evil corporations have encased Jirachi in a metal constraint that keeps its wish-granting third eye constantly forced open, keeping Jirachi artificially awake year-round, as they now charge exorbitant fees for the world's wealthiest trainers to access Jirachi and get their wishes granted. Or at least that was until one day when one of the world's trillionaires paid to visit Jirachi and wish for good weather, as for his upcoming birthday, he wanted to assure he could take out his yacht. However, accompanying the trillionaire was his young son, who still possessed a shred of humanity. And upon viewing the helpless state that Iron Wish was in, the son would mutter to himself, "I wish it wasn't stuck like that." And this was all Iron Wish needed to burst alive, granting the child's wish by freeing itself from its metallic prison. And now fully awoken and filled with spiteful anger, it rampaged through the facility, destroying everything in sight on its way to freedom. And after a successful escape, Iron Wish now wanders the world, having completely lost faith in humanity and vowing to never grant a wish again. In terms of stats, Iron Wish has 90s across the board. And this, of course, is reflective of Jirachi, who has 100s across the board. However, all the stats of the Paradox forms are always a prime number, so it had to be 90 instead. And for the shiny, I just went with the classic future Paradox form with this chrome color. But now let's get into the second Pokemon. But first, think fast. What type is super effective against the electric type? Oh wow, you knew that like instantly. It seems like playing an RPG like Pokemon was a great way for you to internalize some information. But what if there was an RPG that taught you a super valuable skill like coding? Well, today's video sponsor, Boot.dev, is exactly that. Boot.dev has everything you need to learn the coding languages that real companies use, all in the format of an RPG, including quests, an XP system, an online leaderboard. Even the lessons are set up like a video game. Like, look, this guy's sword was healing enemies, but by adding a simple minus sign, now it's slashing away at their HP instead. That's how swords work. I've been using Boot.dev for a bit now, and I am just shocked by how easily I can retain information when it's in the form of a video game. Like, I'm convinced this is the best way to learn anything, because not only is the format super engaging, every lesson is set up like what you would actually be doing as a back-end developer. So none of the lessons feel like fluff because you're actually doing something. And anytime I get stuck, I just talk to Boots, which is an AI-powered wizard bear, there, who you can literally type to and ask them anything, and somehow they always will point you in the right direction. I love Boot. So if you're at all interested in learning how to code, you absolutely need to head over to boot.dev and use code Pokédex Fillers for 25% off of your first year. Huge thank you to boot.dev for sponsoring today's episode, but now let's get back into the second Pokemon. And this one will be for Meatball Mike. I'm glad you liked Rockwile in the last episode. I think it's one of the funniest designs we've ever made. But anyways, Mike, let's start by getting the power level of your Pokemon, and you are going to be regular. I dare you to say there's something wrong with that. Now let's see how many times your Pokemon can evolve, and you are going to get 1, which makes you a 2-stage evolution line. Now let's see what typing your Pokemon's going to be. Your first type is going to be the electric type. I feel like it's been a while since we made an electric type, so that's cool. An electric fire type. That is super cool typing and also very rare in real Pokemon because I'm pretty sure only Rotom Heat has that typing. So now we get to make a new one. And the last step before we see which Pokemon looks like, let's see if it has an X Factor, and you do an additional form. That's awesome. This Pokemon is absolutely busted. The first stage of your Pokemon is Fridio, the broken Pokemon. These tiny robotic Pokemon contain a ton of electrical energy, causing them to constantly malfunction as they spark electricity and spontaneously burst into flame. And while these are defects, being this unstable actually has some upside. As in battle, they're extremely unpredictable and hit very hard when they manage to do so. However, they're pretty much incapable of taking any hits themselves, as any sort of solid blow is enough to cause permanent damage to their already unstable frame. And as a result, while the Pokemon starts off looking like this, in the wild they can pretty much only be found looking like this, in a state so broken that even the Poke Center is incapable of fully restoring them. However, for trainers willing to go through a little extra work, there is a way to fix Fridio, at least temporarily. As in my fan-made game, there will be an NPC who specializes in repairing broken Fridio, allowing you to pay a fee to restore your Pokemon to a more stable form. However, Fridio will revert right back to its broken form if it ever faints in battle. Now, I know what you're thinking. What's the point of all this? Well, upon reaching level 20, Fridio will evolve into one of 2 different forms, based on whether it levels up while in a broken or repaired state, with broken Fridios evolving into Scramblade. Since it was never repaired upon evolution, Scramblade chose to embrace its unstable energy and is now a manic ball of fire and electricity, as its mouth now roars with blasts of heat and its eyes spark with giant bolts of lightning, ensuring that anything in front of it is not walking away. However, just like its pre-evolution, Scramblade is very fragile, so if the opponent is able to get any hit off during Scramblade's frenzied assault, it's usually enough to put this robotic beast out of commission. However, for trainers who are willing to repair their Fridio, they will evolve into Searker. Now, having contained their raw power in a much more stable frame, Searkers are less capable of unleashing crazed attacks. However, where they lack in offense, they make up for in defense, as they're now experts at channeling their heat and electricity into defensive waves of power that push away any incoming attack, keeping enemies at a safe range while they launch volleys of fire from afar. In terms of stats, Scramblade has absolutely insane offenses and speed, but its defenses are non-existent. Meanwhile, Searker is quite the opposite because it has really good defenses, but its offenses are just okay, and it's very slow. And for the shinies, I went with this really cool green and purple color. But now let's get into the third Pokemon. But before we get into the final Pokemon, it's time for the member modifier. This is the segment of the show where we take a fan favorite Pokemon from a previous episode and give it a brand new upgrade. In the last episode, we gave a brand new evolution to Setamite, and in today's segment, we're gonna do the exact same thing. Setamite has ended up being an absolute fan favorite Pokemon thanks to its split evolution, which is based off RPG classes, as well as the Elemental Evolution Stone. So far, we have Seta Mage, which is based off the Fire Stone, Seta Monk, which is based off the Water Stone, Seta Druid, which is based off the Leaf Stone, and Seta Rogue, which is based off the Moon Stone. And for today's evolution, I once again had my channel members vote between 3 stones to base the new Evo on. And the options were the Sunstone, the Dawn Stone, and the Thunder Stone. And the winner was the Thunderstone, which when placed in the hole in Setamite's chest will cause it to evolve into Setaficer. These crystallized inventors are known to collect special elemental rocks, which they launch out of the makeshift cannon on their arm. But that's not the only invention this Pokemon uses, as it also sets up an intricate network of traps around the caves that it calls home, ensuring that any potential intruders are obliterated without Setaficer having to lift a finger. Huge thank you to all my channel members. I hope you like Setaficer, and if you want to become a channel member yourself and help us vote on the next member modifier, which will be another Setamite evolution, then you can look into that by hitting the join button down below. But now let's get right back into it. And this one will be for Iffy Loki. Thanks so much for making the journey over from TikTok. I hope you enjoy the full video. But anyways, Loki, let's start by getting the power level of your Pokemon, and you are going to be regular.
I double dog dare you to say there's something wrong with that.
Now let's see how many times your Pokemon can evolve, and you are once again going to get 1, so we have another 2-stage evolution line. Now let's see what typing your Pokemon's going to be. Your first type is going to be the Psychic type. That is our second Psychic type of the episode because of Jirachi as well, and Psychic Bug type. That's actually pretty cool typing. And the last step before we see which Pokemon looks like, let's see if it has an X Factor, and you do, a Corrupted form. It has been a while since we made a Corrupted form. This Pokemon is about to be insane. Are you gonna finish that? The first stage of your Pokemon is Larvark, the greedy Pokemon. These tubby little larvae are always hungry. However, their lack of physical abilities prevents them from hunting for itself. So how do these Pokemon stay so well-fed and cheerful? Well, Larvark has developed a strange ability to emit a low mind-altering frequency from their antenna, which causes any creature who gets near it to develop the sudden urge to care for Larvark and give it food, leading to the Pokemon becoming spoiled rotten. Upon reaching level 36 with high friendship, it would evolve into Gluttar. These Pokemon have mastered their mind-mending abilities, now able to influence entire ecosystems of Pokemon to answer its every beck and call. And if a Gluttar gets really carried away, it can destroy its own habitat, as by taking all the available food sources for itself, it will slowly lead to irreparable damage to an area's food cycle. And it's this Pokemon's ability to take food away from others, which is reflected in its signature ability, Plate Plunder, which states that whenever the opponent tries to consume a healing food item, such as a berry or leftovers, Gluttark will intercept the healing for itself, as it simply refuses to let anyone else enjoy a snack in its presence. And it's this Pokemon's extreme greed that caught the attention of the distant evil Cosmic Legendary, who corrupted Gluttar, confusing it with the Cosmic type and greatly enhancing its mind control ability, as it's now able to completely seize the psyche of people and Pokemon alike, and has now been put in charge of preparing an army for the Chaos God's impending arrival. In terms of stats, Corrupted Gluttark has really good stats across the board. However, the theme with Corrupted form Pokemon is that while they're very strong, they always have at least one glaring weakness, with Gluttark's being that it only has 10 speed, which I guess under Trick Room would actually be a good thing. And for the shiny, I made its gold armor silver, and I changed it to this green color as a reference to its previous bug typing. But that's gonna do it for today's episode, y'all. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe before you go. We are insanely close to 1,000,000 subs right now, so make sure to double check if you've subscribed already, because that would be a huge milestone. And if you want to watch more episodes of the Custom Pokemon series, there's a bunch in this playlist. I'm gonna get right back to making some awesome custom Pokemon for you, so I'll see you in the next episode, but until then, peace.